Welcome everybody to the Topline. I'm Marti Bledsoe Post, the founder of Apparently, and just like you, I am a busy parent with a long to-do list and a short attention span. That's partly why I'm bringing you this show, a 15 to 20 minute talk each week with a working parent who's really at the intersection of family and career and talking about what's going on and how they're getting it all done. My guest this week is Dave Mirgon. Dave, I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk.
I'm excited to talk to you and get the working dad perspective on a lot of what's been going on. So to start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about, your kids and your family, their ages, and then your role at work?
Sure. So I've got three kids. Elise is a sophomore at Ohio State. She's majoring in business and real estate. AJ is a senior at Hilliard Bradley High School, plays basketball, football. And then Bubba, Ben's his name, we call him Bubba, is a sixth grader, and he's also very active in sports as well. And so all three have kept us busy over the last 10 to 12 years throughout their educational sports careers. And then for me, I've got basically three lanes that I play in as a quote unquote working dad. I left the corporate world 5-6 years ago, worked for Discover Financial Services in the talent acquisition space. Ran recruiting for them, prior to that Cardinal Health, and decided to go out on my own, created a co-working space where I'm at today, Brick House Blue in the Dublin Bridge Park area. Actually opened up our second location, and did that with the idea of continuing on with consulting, which is what I do with another company I started called Landed, Landid, where we help companies and people land their identities in the job market. So whether it's transitional services, recruiting, or consulting, myself and a collection of other HR professionals or executives work to do that. And then the third lane is the Mid-Ohio Pumas. So I've got the largest AAU travel basketball program in the Midwest. We've got over 600 kids that are in our program, 50 teams. We were able to put about 30 teams, 300 kids out to play over in Indiana during COVID. And so I'm going to plug in for everybody out there that's wondering what's going on. We played in 750 games in Indiana over the course of June, July, and August, and we have 0 COVID cases. So just as a parent who's always wondering, should I introduce my kid back into sports, et cetera, I just think it's important. I've been trying to tell that story as much as I can because I think the narrative out there gets a little bit skewed, that we were able to do that as well as practices and had not a single kid test positive for COVID. So.
Wow. If you had to say really quickly, how were you able to pull that off? What's the secret?
We were very diligent about the process. We respected the process. We have kids and parents can come in, but they can only come in for about 15 minutes. They wear a mask. The kids wear masks in. We take breaks, sanitize, wash hands. Same thing on the way out. We've got sanitation stations. And we also ran 3 camps with about 200 kids. Here in August. We shut down our 4th through 6th grade teams right away. They did not play throughout the summer, the younger kids, but 7th grade and beyond were the groups that played. And then our camps recently incorporated 1st grade through 8th grade. Okay. But in Indiana, they do a really good job as well in the tournaments, the convention centers of spacing, social distancing, et cetera. And I've even talked to many parents and teams over there where they've not had any issues either.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, that's encouraging sounding. Yeah. 3 kids at 3 very different life stages that you have in your house, and 3 sounds almost like 3 jobs or three careers maybe. Yep. How are you doing in all of this? I mean, like literally, how's it feel to be you in this COVID time?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of these have gone up and down in different ways. When COVID originally hit, the basketball side of it was shut down. And I had, 500 kids' uniforms, practice shirts, and shooter shirts in my garage. So we looked like a Dick's Sporting Goods store. Yeah. So that was on pause, but immediately, probably 4 or 5 weeks in there, we began to figure out how do we begin to prepare to get them back out there if there's the opportunity to do so. Yeah. And in communicating with all my parents, there were maybe 3 to 4 parents that were just like, "Look, this isn't what we want to do." Many others were delighted that we were trying to find a way to get the kids back out being active. So that began to put a lot of work. We had to kind of restart and do things all over again to get these kids back out playing. As far as, landed goes, recruiting slowed down dramatically. The unemployment rate, skyrocketed, which we have an outplacement side to our business. So that began to, as people figured out whether they wanted to go back to work or they wanted to collect unemployment, once they decided it's time to rebrand and find a job, business started to pick up in July as well. And then here at Brick House Blue, of course, in that first 6 weeks, while we stayed open, we were pretty much empty. A lot of our meetings were canceled. Our coworkers were working from home. So the meetings have gradually come back, but the co-working has, ramped up significantly. People were realizing, I don't want to work from home. My company's making me do it. I want to go somewhere where I can focus. So we're getting a lot of those pop-in pass people, as well as entrepreneurs who are traditionally working from home, who are now saying, my kids are at home. I need to take my office into somewhere professional. So that's been a plus. Yeah.
So over your career span, how has being a father, how have your kids impacted your career?
No, great question. Actually, they've built my career in some sense. The Mid Ohio Pumas piece I was doing, my son started as a first grader, he's a senior. So this is our 10th year. I was doing that after work, 6 to 9, 3 nights a week with my son, practices, and then we started to build more teams. It was a big part of my evenings, nights, life, weekends, etc. And we were able to build it to a place where we're at today with 50 teams and 600 kids, that it's an actual business now. Camps, tournaments, fall leagues, etc. So my son and both my sons have kind of positioned their interests and hobbies and my passion for sports into another business opportunity. Mm-hmm. As far as my daughter goes, my kids collectively, it's allowed me to show them that talent, being in recruiting and talent acquisition, that their skill sets, their talents, that the people that they are, their core behaviors are important, and they should recognize them. So we've had a lot of great dialogue about who they are and who they want to be. Mm-hmm. So I've been able to actually bridge my career and they as individuals growing up into one.
Did you ever feel like it was hard to be a dad and have a career?
No, I was fortunate to have a fantastic wife who worked full-time as well at Cardinal Health. She's been there for 20 years, who created flexibility for me, understood the kids, in the evening we're going to have somebody at practice, whether I was running it or whether they were participating in another program. And so she was very good about knowing that we were doing all this, sacrificing this for the right reasons to get these kids out there. She did a great job with me taking phone calls till 10 o'clock at night, talking to parents about our program when it was probably her time for me to be with her. So it was never truly an issue, just because, she had a lot of bandwidth and flexibility with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What conditions do you need around you to be your most creative? And do you feel like you have those in your life right now?
Well, those that know me really well know I'm a big thinker, Shark Tank ideation guy. My brain never turns off. So the only conditions I need to be in that space, because it's me driving, laying in bed at night, mowing the lawn, I'm always thinking about the next best thing. The main condition is being around people who are big thinkers and open-minded. If I get in a room or around people or friends that are your traditional glass half empty or squelchers, I got to pull myself out of it. I can't have conversations in that space where everybody's thinking about the downside of something. That's just not who I am. It's not how I teach our kids. It's not how I teach our kids in our program. And even the employees that I've had over the years, just always thinking about the next thing and how do we get there versus what's happened behind us. Mm-hmm.
So when this all kind of first shut us down in March and April, did you feel like you had less access to people like that? Did you feel were you struggling at all to get that creative time?
Well, I don't really need, I'm saying this lightly, I don't really need people to have the creative time. It's just that if I'm going to have those creative conversations with people, then I tend to like to be around people who think that way.
Yeah.
But it allowed me more time for me to really digest and kind of marinate and nurture those ideas, where traditionally they're an idea and they sit over here on the shelf because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
So I've been able to kind of create some new things for all three of our business lines. and to kind of look at them differently. So that's been fun. And we did a lot of Zoom stuff. I tried to share, we had a variation of panels to kind of share those ideas and thoughts of what's coming and what could be next in the job market. So yeah, no, it was okay. Would I preferred people? Sure.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have a little me time.
Yeah, I understand that. It kind of comes and goes for people depending on the situation they like to be in. So what is a tip that you would give other working parents, and specifically dads right now, as they are navigating maybe working from home for their first time in their career, or, you know, finding themselves at any kind of crossroads or conflict? What would you say to them?
Great question. I think it's specifically to the dads, but I think even the moms, I would say inclusivity. And what I mean by that is the ability to I think traditionally we grew up where your dad went to work and, you know, mom stayed home and things like that. My parents did a great job of bringing me into what they were doing. My dad was a salesman. I went on his sales route, rode the truck with him, learned about his business. My mom was in mental health as a social worker. You know, I went to her office after school and hung out there and watched what she did and taught, you know, they had a gym there and I would work out while I was there. I always felt like I was a part of my parents' career. And so I've tried to do a lot of that with my own, where I know people say don't bring work home, but I think it's really important that your kids know what you do and why you do it, and all the things that come around it. My daughter is an intern here at Brick House Blue, so she sees me often and sees how other entrepreneurs operate. And that's kind of forced her to take the career of, you know, getting a business degree, real estate, and getting into entrepreneurism. She's already declared she does not want to, you know, work for somebody else. And I think a lot of that stems from the last 6 years of me moving out into doing my own thing, and her being a part of seeing that and doing it. So I would say bringing your kids into the conversation with what you do and not being so, you know, creating a declination of I'm at home, it's now family time. I think family and work can combine.
And what would you say to parents right now who are working from home and kids are doing school from home? What would you suggest to them?
You know, for patience. And I think what I found is less accountability. I think it's a great social experiment that we're in right now, where we can try and create a little bit more bandwidth for these kids to see how much they can do on their own. You know, I think in March, there was a lot of how do we force what we know they should be doing, but yet it came to a point where, you know, schools were declaring, all right, everybody's getting an A or a pass, so does learning even matter right now? And, you know, kids were staying up late and sleeping in and then getting to their stuff whenever they could because they were given that bandwidth to do it on their own time. I think there's learning lessons. I've had many conversations with parents as we approach the fall on how they're going to try to create structure in an unstructured environment, which is being at home for the most part. But I think you can also, you know, delegate a little bit more or empower them a little bit more to try to do it on their own and reward them for figuring it out versus hovering over them all the time and ensuring they're doing every little piece. So I think there's some experimental time in there that I think people should try and to work with. I know for me, like I said to you earlier before we jumped on, I didn't realize that today for Friday isn't school. It's the off day on the hybrid. I didn't know my kids weren't going to school today. So they didn't have to get up at 6 a.m. to get on the bus and such. So just me keeping up with that, I'm not sure I can do that right now. Again, my wife's great at that stuff, but I would just say have a little bit more bandwidth and patience.
Yeah, so you've mentioned her a couple times. So I'm going to ask you, you know, according to the statistics, many of the wives are doing more of the unpaid labor in the home. So they're keeping the kitchen running, the laundry running, the house is clean, disinfected, the pets are taken care of. They, you know, they're managing these crazy schedules and working. Is that how it is in your house?
The timing of this was actually interesting. My wife had an opportunity to take a severance package right when March hit, and she'd been at Cardinal Health for 20 years, and so instead of staying in and trying on moving to a different role, we both decided this was the timing where she could step away and figure out what she wants to do next in her career. And so she's been at home during all of this, having some time for herself, having extra time with the kids. So it's actually been easier for me because she's been around, but we've been around together. It's probably the first time in our careers that we've both been home together, and, you know, being productive. So, you know, if she had been still, and she was for a period of time up until May, I take that back, where she was on Zoom calls, trying to do conference calls, and the kids were at home. She did a great job of just ensuring that the things you mentioned were taken care of. Now, I will say, I'm a clean freak, so a lot of the cleaning and stuff I do as well. So yeah, I enjoy that part of my duties.
Could you have the 3 careers you have if you were raising those 3 kids on your own? If you didn't have her as a partner, could you have all the career success you have?
Absolutely not. Like, it just, you know, there's just too much. I'm already juggling enough with 3 different verticals that if I really looked at family as the 4th vertical and I was having to do the full capacity of what comes with that, there's no way. And that's why I keep bringing her up. I mean, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to try these different things. She's allowing me to exercise my, you know, my demons of wanting to create and be innovative and such. So she recognized that from day one with me, and that's always who I've been. She's actually tried to pull me out of corporate many years ago to do some of these things and take risks. So yeah, there's no way. I probably would have to stick to the traditional corporate role and having daycare and some support from my parents or family if I were a single father. I don't know how single mothers do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have the burden of all of this plus the providing, you know, and no partner. So that is something that we've seen in the data too, that even married mothers are having a lot of pressure on them too. So switching gears a little bit, what is one thing that you have like just let go of caring about as a parent in the pandemic, or one thing that's like come into your family's life as a tradition or something you want to keep? So something you're tossing, something you're keeping.
Yeah. I'd say the thing that we've I don't know if it's keeping or tossing, but the one thing that's happened is for the first time we've had, you know, we put our 12-year-old lab down in late fall, and we got a new puppy, and then during the pandemic we went ahead and got a second one.
Oh my gosh.
We've never done that before. So it was the first time our family, and my daughter was home because Ohio State had everybody home. So the whole family at home in lockdown, trying to take care of 2 puppies, I think was a great parental, family experiment, because everybody had to chip in. And normally that would have been my responsibility to wake up, take the dogs out. I think being able to empower them to take on some of those responsibilities is kind of fun. And, they being an extension of our family, probably more than any other time during this, has been great. Just seeing all of that. So I think it's not something we would have probably have done had this not happened. Is added a second dog just because of our schedules.
Yeah.
But we did it. We took the risk, and it's not that big a deal.
What are their names?
I've got a fox red lab named Tug, and I've got a black lab named Jet.
Oh my gosh, how cute.
One is 1 and one is 6 months old.
That's like having toddlers at home.
It is.
If you were designing a t-shirt right now for working parents, what would the slogan be?
Probably something that's my typical mantra, and that is, what if, why not? And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough energy or thought thinking to say, but what if today's the day that I take the kids fishing? What if today's the day that I allow them to ride their bike an extra half mile to the store? What if today is the day that, they make a great accomplishment in a space they've never made it before? And the why not is a lot of, why not let them try that? Why not allow myself the time to spend, with them? So I think when people are asking questions of themselves, they find themselves to be, those self-checks allow them to be a little bit more productive. Mm-hmm. So I would constantly probably have, if I had a shirt line, it would be a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Creating curiosity and thought in other people's minds versus making statements. I'm not a big fan of the motivational quote, make a statement, and then have people try to figure out what that's supposed to mean to them. Mm-hmm. I like for people to kind of understand themselves by asking questions.
Well, you're the first person who hasn't answered that with a swear word of any kind. So what is one thing you've done just for yourself lately?
I think during COVID, what was great is that I got some time. We've got a workout room in our house, and my son and I, I've got the first time to really lift and work out together.
Mm-hmm.
He's traditionally done that at the high school. I was traditionally done that at work.
Mm-hmm.
So together we were able to find time to get healthy together, and collectively the family has. But I definitely haven't done anything that's like a hobby. There hasn't just been that kind of time. You would think,
Yeah.
but it feels like when we're at home, there's just more connection happening and less independent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where maybe traditionally I would go off and golf or go do something else. I just there hasn't been a lot of that independent time for myself. It seems like the family connection, staying in that family connection all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. What's one question I didn't ask you that I should ask my next guest?
Well, because I'm a thought thinker and a pusher, I would ask them, if you could be somebody different than you are today. I mean, how does that look? What does that feel like? I like it when people, especially if you're talking to people, our age and the midlife part that's done something for so long, like what does pivoting look like?
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of conversations through this pandemic of individuals that have lost their jobs after 20 plus years in their careers, and they're worrying and figuring out how to get back into the accounting world, the marketing world, the sales world. And I like to push people like, well, what would it look like if you owned your own coffee shop? What would it look like if you were giving back with the skills and talents that you have? And just at least making them think about it. A lot of people are risk adverse and they're not going to take those chances. But I think if people just paused for a minute and thought about what they would look like outside of their traditional world, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. That's a great one. I think that this has invited us more than any other time in our own lifetimes to take all the building blocks, throw them up in the air, and let them land in a totally different way, which is easier for some people than others, depending on, things like you just said, plus depending on the age and stage of their family. But I really appreciate the father perspective coming from you. I really am interested in all parents and how they're navigating both sides of this coin. So I really appreciate your stories today and your honest answers and your time.
Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully there's some thoughtful and impactful things in there for some of the other working dads or moms. And I would love to talk any other times. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks again. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.